Hey, this is on the Quick Speed Shop. I'm pulling the Banjo Rearend out of the back of my 37 Ford. It's on its way out now. Here we go. Here it comes. If you want to find out more, I'm starting a video to show you what I did to get to this point right now. I'm a professional, don't try this at home. Alright, today I'm going to start out in the old 37 Ford trying to get the rear end out from under the car. And if you guys aren't familiar with the 36 to 39 Fords, they have what's called a wide 5 wheel, where the brake drum was the wheel mounting surface, and then as you see, as I take the wheel off, the wheel bolts all the way around in this great big bolt circle. It's similar to later on in the Volkswagens, the early Volkswagens had a similar thing, but this is a Ford 36 to 39 only setup. I run these axles and drums on my Model A Coupe. I use 38 Ford rear end and a 36 Ford front end, and I've got the wide 5 wheels on that too. Just kind of a neat look. You don't see that often because they only made them for a couple of years, and pretty much nobody reproduces any of the wheels or the drums, so you got to find good original stuff to run what you're running, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I had these wheels sandblasted and painted when I put new tires on the car, and unfortunately the paint was a little not very durable apparently. I had the guy do it, and it scratched up real easy from the trim rings and stuff, so I'm gonna have to repaint them. But the this is special only to Ford, this style wheel, 36 to 39. So I got my nuts off. Check this out. Bam! So as you can see here, the wheel is real wide, or the hole's real big in it. This car, being a 60 horsepower car, should have 3.5 by 16 inch diameter rims, but I know this car doesn't have the original rims on it. It's got 4-inch wide rims, which would have been on the all the other 37 Fords that weren't 60 horsepower. So at some point along the way, somebody swapped on some 4-inch wheels on this car. Or they could have been an option if you got the standard 60 horsepower car. A 4-inch wheel was an option. I don't know if these wheels were ordered that way or not. Actually, sometimes you can see the date on them. I was looking for the date in the wrong spot. The date's actually here on the rim. 6/23/36. So this would be either a really, really early 37 wheel, or actually, so it's a late 36 wheel somebody put on here. So you can see now the drum, which has your bolt surface on there, and it's got I've got to use a puller to pull this off, pull it to get the drum off. But that is your wide 5 Ford action there. You can see 6/7/39, so it's got a 39 wheel on this side. Huh. So I don't know when this car got different wheels put on it. Maybe the original wheels were sold off it because they're the narrow ones or whatever. But there it is there, that date, 6/7/39. Okay, to get the brake drums off an early Ford rear end, you need to take the axle nut off, and then there's a special puller that goes here on the hub, and it pulls on this ring on the hub here. I'm probably going to regret not getting the nut loose before I took the engine out and the weight off, because now I don't have any way to secure the drums really without stepping on the brakes, which it's going to be hard to do from back here. But I'm going to try my impact gun and see if it'll bust this nut loose. 15/16, let's try it and see what happens. Oh, no problem, okay. There we go. So I can take my nut loose here. And the Ford is like a semi-floating style axle with a keyway. Get yourself a KR Wilson hub puller. Comes in a little box. This is a 2-piece puller that allows you to use this to pull the brake drum off. The collar piece has a hole in it that goes over the threads, and then it's got a center locator that presses on there like that. put your two pieces of your puller together. Put the collar on it. You should be able to slowly pull this drum off here. Let's see what happens. Oh, there we go. Just popped. So now I can back that off. Should be able to pull this drum. Oops, I left the washer on there, sorry. Pull the drum off the axle housing, or the axle stub shaft. Oh, we got leaky action. Rear end's got a bad axle seal. I'm swapping this rear end out anyways, but you can see it's like completely ruined the shoes pretty much. Covered them with axle grease. That's nice. Great. Yikes. So obviously I've never had this drum off before because I didn't realize that. You can see all this material and gear oil. It was just getting in there and ruining these shoes. Now these are mechanical brakes. This car, 3738 Ford, had mechanical, what do you call them? Mechanical cable operated brakes. They pull kind of like an emergency brake cable. This is the brake cable here, and it pulls on a shoe. These are kind of like halfway self-energizing with this unit up here, and it was called Ford Safety Brakes, Safety of Steel from pedal to wheel. 3738 only use the cable brakes, and I would put these cable brakes up against any set of early 39 to 41 hydraulics. I think they work pretty good when they're not covered with gear oil. But that's a little disturbing to see. I do have a couple sets of mechanical brakes that hopefully I can get a good set of shoes. These shoes aren't worn down that far. They're just pretty oiled up now. It's kind of nasty. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unbolt this whole braking system from the axle itself. Pull that off, leave it hang here, because when I swap in the 48 rear end, I can bolt the mechanical brakes right back onto it. Well, crap, this side is just as nasty, if not nastier, than the other side. And apparently what happens is there's a axle seal inside the axle back in here, and I bet both those axle seals are shot, obviously, because look at all the gear oil that's come out and ruined everything. There's a seal here for the bearing in the hub that is probably also bad, but the oil coming out, just leaking out everywhere. This rear end, the way you fix it is you take the spring off, and then you take the axle apart at the center section, take both hubs out, or both bells off, I mean, and you can pull the seal out and put a new seal in there. But since this rear end is coming out of the car anyway, so I'm replacing it with a 48 rear end, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to clean this up and take the brakes off, like I said, but that's just nasty. Okay, to get these backing plates off, there's 4 bolts here. There's 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. They got safety cotter keys in them. And then the lower wishbone stabilizer bar bolts on these lower 2. So I've got the rear end supported with the floor jack, and I'm going to knock the bolts out, get the brakes off, then put the 2 lower bolts back in to hold the wishbone back to the axle housing itself. And I've got these pretty old cotter keys. Let's see if I can get them out of here. Oh, yeah, there we go. One on the top is missing for some reason, but these are here. Just give them a little fight them on out of here. Here's one. This one's going to be a little trickier to get to, I think. Maybe. Ford loved cotter keys. Everything was safe. Yeah, the top two are missing. Up there, these are probably what? 5/8 or 11/16. Let me get a couple of sockets. Oh, it's 3/4. Oh. These bolts simply tap out. I can use a brass drift and tap them out of the housing, or actually I probably can just tap right on the backing plate with a dead blow hammer and it'll come apart there, but not too bad to work on here. Everything's coming apart. And I should be able to use my dead blow hammer just to, uh-oh, maybe I lied to you. It's going. Let's use a little drift action here. There we go. Now I can just take the brakes and let them swing just like that. I'm going to leave the bolts and the nuts with the backing plate so I can reinstall them on the other rear end. And I'll just stick a couple of, see how this is loose now? I'm just going to take a couple of 1/2-inch bolts and just bolt this together so it's with the rear end when I take it out of the car. Okay, I got my brakes off both sides here, and I've gone ahead and I've removed the nut from the dog bone for the shock that goes into the rear spring mount here. But I want to show you the shock. These are hydraulic lever action shocks. They're Houdeville. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's like Houdile. Hydraulic shock bodies. But this car has 3 bad shocks on it. Watch this. This one is completely broken on the inside. It's not supposed to do that, but it only goes so far and won't go down at all. It just goes up, and it had seized up and broken it driving it on the inside. The front, both front shocks are so seized up that the arms don't move at all, and it wrecked the dog bones here, the connection points, and it was just doing some pivot in the dog bones. And you can see here, this is actually, looks like something got worn or dragged on there. I don't know what happened there, but this one is junk. Over here on the dark side of the moon, the only shock that is still functional, the dog bone is kind of intact, is the driver's side rear. See how the resistance, as I pull this up and down? This is what the shock is supposed to do, act like an actual hydraulic shock. So this is the only shock that is any good on the car at all. And I can't remember if I told you before, but these are very, very expensive to replace. There's a company that rebuilds them, and it's like $1,200 for a set of 4 brand new shocks, or rebuilt shocks. So they won't even rebuild the ones that are seized up. They want working ones like this to rebuild them. So what I'm going to do is look, I've got some of these without the arms on them and with arms. See if I got a matching passenger side rear shock so I can retain the stock shocks on the back of this. On the front of the car, I'm definitely going to have to do a tube shock conversion, which they make kits for to do that. And that'll be a separate video doing all the shocks in this. But if I can get away using the stock rear shocks, if I can find another one, I'll do that. If not, I'll have to do some kind of tube shock conversion on the back as well, because I cannot spend $1,200 on shocks for this car. That's just crazy. Okay, the last step to get the rear end out of the car is unbolting the spring from the mount in the frame. Got some 7/8 bolts here, or U-bolts. See if I can. Oh yeah. This is two U-bolts with like these clamps that pinch the spring and go around the cross member, hold the spring right in there. I've got a floor jack under the rear end to hold it. I'll slowly back the U-bolts off, and then we can let the rear end down out of the cross member, then pull it backwards out of the car. I hear creaking. gonna let a little pressure off my jack. Oop. So I had, so I let the spring relax. I had the weight of the car on the, still on the rear end. I always want to be careful around springs, not sure what they're going to do. Sometimes they've been in there forever and get stuck. But this should let the this should let the whole thing come right down out of the car. Like, there we go. There we go. Coming down, coming down. Now I've got to get the front of the torque tube out of the frame. So I just got to get down enough to get past the cross member. Here I can actually take the U-bolts up out of the way. So there we are. We'll be clear of the frame in 1 second here. Up here in the car, it's kind of dark, but you can see the front of the torque tube here. I've got to fish this off through the frame rail here and then just back it up. It's kind of like a two-handed operation, but it'll come out of there, then it'll just go down. We'll be able to pull this thing right out from underneath the car. And I'm trying to get the torque tube out of here, but it's pinched between the floor and the frame rail. It's close. I gotta take these two body mounts out here to let the floor spring up just a little bit so I can pass it through the hole. It's close, but it won't quite go. But these two 3/8 bolts here that are body mounts, I can undo them and it'll allow the floor to spread up enough to get it out of there. So I got to do that. Okay, I think I got it. I got the lip under the floor, and I think I can pull back on this, and I got a jack stand that's going to catch the torque tube. You should want to pull out of here and drop down. Oh. Nuts. I don't need that much, but this yoke is impeding my progress here. So close. I think I gotta push the rear end back into the car, take the stupid speedometer housing off. No! Easy. That's what I gotta do. Okay, I think it'll come out now. I took the housing off, and it should be in a clear shot. Oh, ah. Oh yeah, here we go. Yep, there we go. Man. more crap in the way. More crap in the way. Let me see here. There we go. There it is. There's the rear end out. You can see the full length of the torque tube and the radius rods, the rear spring. And it is right out from underneath the car there. Now we got no rear end whatsoever. The last thing I want to do for this video is try to get the fuel tank out, because I also need to replace that. And then I think we'll hang it up for now. Well, this escalated quickly here. I had to pull the driver's side rear fender off to get the fuel tank off. I can't figure out how to get the filler neck out. I think it threads into here, but I can't budge it. And yes, I don't know what to do. I took the drain plug out of the tank and tried to see if there's any gas in it, old gas in it. And I poked it way up in there, nothing came out. But man, the tank sure feels heavy. There we go. Now, the next question is, can you unthread it in the car? It seems like you'd be able to. If I hit the tank just a little bit closer. Now, is it going to fall out if I do that? Yes, it's on the verge of falling out now. Fantastic. And it's like right on the edge of coming out down this way. Oops. There we go. So it'll come like this. That's my finger. Okay, I figured out the what do you call it? The thingamajig here. I was spinning it. I'm like, why isn't this unthreading? Why isn't this unthreading? Finally, I was able to look. The threads are on this end, and look, they have like a flare fitting on there. So you set the thing where you want, and then you crank this down into the tank, and it seals up tight on here. That's how it's threaded into the tank, is right here on this part. Because I'm like, what the hell? I kept spinning it, and it wasn't doing nothing until I could see the threads. Then I backed it out with a pipe wrench. And ta-da, look at that. So that's kind of cool. But look how nasty that is in there. I don't know if you can see it. It's freaking all scaly. A lot of rust inside of that because this thing sat for like 40 years with gas and moisture and nonsense in the tank. But it's really nasty inside there the whole way. It's going to be a trick to try to clear that out. Probably like a steel brush and run it in and down. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe the cabinet blaster and blast in there, something. But I got the filler neck off. So now I should be able to drag the tank out. Let's go over here. I'll set you up again. One more time. There we go. Ta-da! Bam! Ow! Man, that feels awful heavy, like it must just be full of rust and sediment. Look at this. Here's the underside of the car, which, you see all this surface rust? So I'm going to take a wire wheel to the whole underside of this car and then paint it with some Eastwood rust encapsulator and paint. There's a dent in the trunk floor there. Paint all this and like paint the inside of the frame, just kind of paint everything. The only rust that's on this car is this tool tray here, and all the cars are rot out because the moisture was sitting here. And somebody repaired this with fiberglass mesh way back in the day. You can see like window screen and fiberglass here. They make trunk paints of this. I'm not worried about restoring this car right now, like body wise. That's gonna be fine. I'll just paint up black with the encapsulator. I'm not worried about that. This car needs a full bodywork job at some point. And you can see the scale here. I'm gonna wire wheel this, and I'll just rust encapsulate all this floor, repaint it, and it sat in the barn where it got some moisture in the bottom of it. But you see here on the floor, this is under the back seat. There was a mouse nest under there. This is mouse pee damage. It rotted the floor from the inside out. I am going to cut this out, take the bottom of the back seat out, and I'll cut this out, make a new piece, and weld in a patch here to fix that rust. But the tail panel, I'm not going to worry about that. But here's the other side of the car. You can see I added seat belts here. That's an anchor for the seat belts. I put front seat belts in just so I don't end up going through the windshield. And see my fuel pump over there for the fuel pump to the tank. I added that a couple years ago. Brake cables here, and on the taillight wiring down the frame rail. But the underside of the car is very solid. This car is like 99% rust free, and it was amateurly restored, but it's in very excellent shape. This is pretty much the only rust between that and the tail pan, and like a couple of minor little patches on the fenders over here way back in the day. But this car is very solid. So I'll throw in a new coat of paint on the bottom of it, just help protect it a little bit longer. Here's the tank. Well, I guess it's empty, but here you can see where the filler neck threads into it here. My tanks, I had to replace this. I don't think they have the threaded filler neck. I think they got a stub sticking out here. So I'm going to have to find a filler neck that uses the non-threaded side or style. But ooh, I hear crunchiness. This tank, let's see, where is it? Yeah, right there. This tank was probably mostly full when the car got put away. And water would have sat on the top of the gasoline. And see here, it's rotted a bunch of holes through where the gas was sitting up at this level. It rotted there. It's probably got some holes. There's probably a hole there and a couple of holes over here where it's all leaking out. And this is where the fuel line would thread in. So this tank's junk. I got like 3 more of them used, and they sell reproduction ones, but I got a couple of good used ones. So I'll pull the sending unit out. I might actually order a new one. I think you can still buy these. Ooh, a crunchy old rubber band. I'll probably buy a new sending unit for it, get that. But the tank is out. Everything is disassembled that I want to get disassembled out of the car now, so I can start cleaning things up and start doing the engine swap here. I mean, the paint on this car is a good it's a good 10-footer. You can see it's got all kinds of blemishes in it here under the paint. It needs to be stripped down, completely stripped, and there's a couple little dings and stuff. It needs to be completely stripped and repainted, have the running boards recovered and stuff, but I'm just going to drive it like this. Good enough for who it's for, that's what I say. So that's it. Got the rear end and the gas tank all stripped out. Got the fender off, which didn't need to come off, but whatever. I'll put it back on. And now I've got some things to do. I got to order wiring harness. I'm going to clean up under the engine bay, drag up the other rear end I want to put in here, get that stripped down, and get it converted over to go into the car. Just so I got a whole bunch of stuff to do. Figure out what I'm going to do with those. Seize up shocks, drag out my gas tank, and just start. Now I got the thing stripped down where it's got to be. We can start putting the 37 back together. So we'll be working on this car for the next few sets of videos. Trying to get the 59AB in it and get the thing all back together and fired up for springtime. So that's all I'll be working on. Hope you come back and watch again. Working on the 37 Ford right here at the Quick Speed Shop.